All right, we just had a customer that came in and brought a vehicle diagnostic device. I never seen that device in my life. It looks something like this. And he told me the model number on this one is, I wrote it down here as the title of the ticket. The model number is VAS6154A, diagnostic dongle. He said the device is very important to him. He took it to several shops and they refused to work on it. The problem with this one, he said, the cable was shoved in too hard and he believes the connector is the problem. So after exhausting all options and not finding any shop to work on it, he opened it up and he attempted to work on the connector. And so I told him it's a Hiroshima, and he left. He watches the channel and it is a Hiroshima. Let's take a look. The customer attempted to solder, and of course soldering takes experience. You cannot just go and watch one video and use any soldering iron and expect to do a good job. If you're skilled, you can use a cheap soldering iron and do the job, just like a basketball player. If you give him a soccer ball and tell him, can you use that to shoot it and get it inside the hoop, he's going to be able to do it because of his experience. Even if you give him a tennis ball, he may be able to get it in. But when you do not have experience and you are using cheap tools, big tip possibly, or not enough heat on the soldering iron, or I do not know what type of solder was used, or I do not know if flux was used. I do not see, or I do see signs of flux, or maybe the solder itself has a core flux. That's what you get. That's the result that you get when you do not have the experience. I do see two missing pads. One here, and the one next to it, and the one next to it, right? Or maybe, yeah, we have 3 missing pads. We can restore those pads, no problem. We just have to see where that trace is going. This one looks like it's going here, and this one looks like it's going here. Now, the good thing about the customer is he brought in 2 donor devices that we can extract the connector from. Big Boss opened up one of the donor devices and the charging connector just fell off. So I do not know if that's a common problem with those devices, but I did not even have to heat up the board to remove the connector. We already have a connector here that we can use. We may also be able to use the same connector that's on the board now, but we have to fix the traces. So we have to remove that connector to work on the board. If you look at the connector, it looks good. I do not see anything wrong with it. And the connector is not a through hole. It's an SMT connector, surface mount. So how should we remove that connector? There are 101 ways to remove the connector, but I want to try my hot tweezers and see if I can remove that connector with just my hot tweezers and nothing else. I'm going to tilt the board so we can have that tip flat on that connector, and let's see if we can do it that way. Look at that. And every single pad is missing. Are you kidding me? Every single pad is missing. It did not look like it when that connector was on the board. All the pads are gone. And now we're going to be using our grinding pen to grind some of those traces here, because we're going to connect a pad strip from here to here, from here to here. And from here to here, here to here, and here to here. Nice. We're able to see all those traces, and we should have no problem. Now, as you know, we've been out of stock on the grinding pan for the past 2 weeks. We have a version 2 of the grinding pan that should arrive maybe by next week. So if you are in the market for a grinding pan, just wait until next week and you will have the latest and greatest. I'll announce it when we have them back in stock. But right now I'm still using version 1 of the grinding pan, which is still amazing, but version 2 is improved. In version 2, we no longer have to unscrew in order to put or change the tip. We can just put it in and out without doing any extra work. And they made it more efficient, battery lasts longer, and all that good stuff. I mean, the battery on this grinding pen, to be honest, I charge it once every maybe 3-4 months. It lasts a very long time, a very long time. You do not use a grinding pen all day long, you use it when you need it. Now the third pad, we just need to treat it with care. We need to know where that trace is going. Right here. So we can connect the wire from here all the way here, or we can just grind whatever we have left here, and that will be easier than running a wire all the way here. We want to make sure that those two pads are not touching, this and this. Now we're gonna grab pad strips for number 1, number 2, 3 and 4. We can probably use those rectangular pad strips. We do not need to use those long wired ones. We just got pad strips 3 back in stock. I posted a community post on YouTube to let you know that we got them. Pad strips 2 is still out of stock, but pad strips 4 is the same as 2, but it contains a lot more pad strips. You're talking about maybe 2,600 strips. We just got 3 and we're gonna get 2 maybe by next week. 2 is cheaper because it contains less. And our microscopes also out of stock, but we should get them within 7 to 10 days, and we have a new version coming out. I mean, version 1 is already amazing. How much better will version 2 be? We have a bigger sensor. The microscopes are being customized for us. We have a bigger sensor. A bigger sensor means even better image quality. You will be able to see more under the microscope, better in low light, and better dynamic range. So once we get those microscopes in, I'll announce it to let you know. For those of you that are waiting for the microscopes, I mean, if you look here, we have 118 people waiting for the microscopes to be back in stock. The first batch that we're getting in about 10 days, is 100 pieces. The next batch will be in about 6 weeks, 100 pieces also, so on and so forth. So version 2 is going to be very exciting. I cannot wait to make a video on it to show you what it has to offer. That's pad strip number 1. And let's do pad strips number 2. And just like that. Let's do pad strip, the 4th one. And finally, we have to do the 3rd one, the middle one. And for that one, I'm not sure if we can use the same style pad. Should we use something different? Let's try the same pad and see how it goes. Like that. And we're done. Add more flux. Now let's take a look at the connector that fell off the donor. We can tell that we do not have any ripped pads stuck on the pins, but we do have ripped pads stuck on the supporting legs. So we're gonna have to remove those. I just wanna check inside the connector and make sure it's good before we use it. And the connector looks awesome. Very good condition. Now before we solder the connector, I want to apply UV mask, and we want to make sure those pad strips are not touching. That's very important. Meter in continuity mode, and let's see, is this one touching with this? And it's not. Now we can safely apply UV mask. And now we're gonna apply UV light. Make sure you have your sunglasses on. All right. And UV light is being applied right now. It will take about 15-20 seconds, and the light will shut off by itself in about 20 seconds. Do you have your glasses on? What if you get exposed to UV through your screen? It's getting old. I mentioned this more than a couple of times in the videos, and it's getting old. Okay, the light is off, and we're gonna apply a little bit of heat so we can get rid of that shiny coat of the UV mask. Just keep looking at the UV mask. Keep looking, keep looking. Nice. And we're gonna place the connector like that. Very nice. Apply some flux on the sides. And we do not have much of a pad left on the back, but that's okay. Let's see if we can do anything about the back one. Maybe if we applied a lot of solder. We do not want to get solder inside the connector, so we have to be careful. But what if we did this? Yeah, just like that. And let's see if we can do the same here. Just like that. Right, and awesome. And that's why I pre-applied solder on those pads. So all I need to do now is just press on the pin over the pad. Solder is gonna liquefy, and the pin will be soldered to the pad. All right, and we're all good. Let's clean up. And we're gonna measure those pins, make sure they are good. And the customer said that we can test this device by plugging in power, and we should see a light on the device. Maybe a blinking light or a steady light. So if we did get a light, that's what the customer wants. And he said most likely we're gonna have a working device. And now we're gonna measure in diode mode to see if the pins are making a good connection. We should not get OL on any one of the pins. If we do have OL, it means the pin is not making a connection. So I expect to get a reading on all the pins. Pin number 1, 0.33, that's perfect. And I'm not pressing down hard on the pin, so I do not force the pin to make a connection with the pad. I'm just barely touching the pin on top. That's very good, 332, 0.332 voltage drop. And if we measure this one, 0.84 voltage drop. That's awesome. And if we measure this one, I'm getting 1 voltage drop, and this one 1 voltage drop, and we have to make sure that those 2 pins are not touching. And finally this one here, 0.904 voltage drop. That's perfect. If we go to continuity mode, make sure that those 2 are not touching, and they are not. This and this, this and this, and this and this. Excellent. We did an amazing job. Amazing job. And now we can apply UV mask again to secure those pins. Solder mask or UV mask is not really used to secure wires down, but it gives some protection. The main purpose of UV mask is so that you can mask copper. Maybe you do not want a copper wire to touch a copper trace on the board, or maybe you have overlapping wires and you do not want them to touch. You apply UV mask. But we also use it for the purpose of securing stuff down. It's not going to secure it like epoxy or like glue, but it's better than nothing. Again, UV lamp. Make sure you have your shades on. Clean the blade from the UV mask. What I do is, when I apply UV mask, I do not squeeze the bottle. You only want a tiny bit. So what I do is, with the tip of my blade, I scrape off the tip. Let me show you. What I do is this. I scrape off the tip. If I do not have any solder mask on the tip, I just squeeze a bit so solder mask or UV mask can flow over the tip. I scrape off some, and then I use my tweezer or this needle probe to just take some out and apply. That's it. And let's go here. Just apply a little bit of hot air. Just a tiny bit. And perfect. Now, I do not know if we have to reassemble this to test it. I'm not the one who took it apart, but let me see what happens if we plug in the cable. Right there. Okay? We have the green light. When we first plug in the cable, look at this. We have the blinking light like the customer said, and we have the green light. I'm not sure if you can see either one, but the board is working. The customer is going to be so happy. I'm going to call him to come and pick up. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to like and subscribe, leave a comment if you have any questions, and we'll do something else in the next video.